See, this is my life. It always will be. There's nothing else. Just us. And the cameras. And those wonderful people out there in the dark.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Out There in the Dark. My name is Tom Alexander, and with me as always is Mr. A.Z. Majid.
Mr. Wow. An honorific?
Yes.
Oh. I think I
You
want to...
deserve it.
Can you call me Lord?
I call you Sir.
Sir?
Sir. Like Sir Christopher Nolan. I didn't realize he was knighted.
Wow, that's some real research. Old Hollywood style transitioning there.
Yeah. I know, really.
Speaking
really subtle.
of which,
clumsy segue.
Well, now that you spilled the beans.
Well,
hey. So it's Christopher Nolan
when
Day.
When people listen to the podcast, they click on the thing that says the Odyssey, so they might know already. Just saying.
Oh, what? Hey man, you're overcomplicating this whole thing, you know? Just go with the flow.
Sorry.
Yeah, I know. I know. So we're talking Christopher Nolan today. The Odyssey, of course, is this continuing, which is very nice, continuing to kind of like bring people into the theaters and excite people. And that's probably the best praise I'm going to give Christopher Nolan.
Did you know that
he
this weekend,
is able to get people into the theaters?
Here's a crazy one. This weekend was apparently like the biggest box office weekend since COVID started.
Really?
Because Spider-Man Brand New Day or whatever,
right?
Which also stars Tom Holland and Zendaya, is the biggest weekend box office movie of all time.
Wow.
And then you've got The Odyssey.
Right.
And then you got Toy Story.
Right.
So it's just crazy.
And nobody, and like Obsession
Theaters
and
are
Backrooms are gone, right?
Obsession is still in the top 10.
Wow.
I know. That's crazy.
That is crazy. All right.
Opened in May.
Yeah, I know.
It's August.
Yeah. Well, I guess I went to see, so The Odyssey, obviously everybody knows about The Odyssey. First story ever told. Or written down anyway.
Do you not believe in the Bible?
This is pre-Bible,
yeah. I know.
Yeah. So Homer's Odyssey is, what they consider, I guess we consider in Western civilization, we consider it to be the original template, I would say, for the...
It's an epic. It's the first
epic. It's a template for the novel, right?
Right.
Because even though it's not a poem the way the Iliad is, which is the counterpart to the Odyssey. But Homer's Odyssey is much more, is the first time that like a kind of written novelistic style appears, right? And it's the beginning of what we call the monomyth. You know, the hero leaves home, faces a lot of challenges and has to risk his life, and then comes back home changed, right? And different. So that's this is the original story, right, of Western civilization. And now Christopher Nolan has decided to make this movie of the Odyssey. And I don't know, what do you want to talk about first? Do you want to talk about how much we want to talk about our impressions first? Or?
Yeah, let's do that. Why not? Why don't now you saw it in IMAX.
Yeah, because I haven't talked to you about it yet.
Yeah.
Actually.
Oh yeah. Listen, AZ and I have not talked at all about what we think of the movie.
No.
So this is all live.
Tom has been kept in a freezer locker since
I was in a
it.
freezer. Yeah. Under AZ only had the key. So
I only had the key, and he's been frozen for like the last 24 hours.
Yeah, about that. Yeah. Still got my woolen socks
Had nothing to
on.
do with the movie, though. I mean, that's just a separate thing that Tom does.
Yeah, he just it's our thing. It's what we do.
I told you not to discuss
Okay, what'd you think of the damn movie? What'd you think?
I liked it.
Okay.
I liked it. It was a fun. Well, I wouldn't say fun. It was a good time at the movies. I'll put it that way. I thought it was way too long.
Okay.
I thought that it was sloppy. Ultimately,
interesting.
Like I thought the problem with the movie for me, and this is a problem I have with a lot of Nolan movies, is there's something contradictory almost about what he's trying to say and then the way he's presenting it, right? There's something very masculine, precise, mathematical, very orderly, very structured. Even when he's trying to be loose and unstructured, he can't do it in an actually non-linear way. He's very architectural the way he builds things, and that you feel it. And it, at least for me, I don't feel involved in the same way because the edifice is so much on top of everything.
Right. I think that's a very, very persistent theme in Nolan's work, is the relationship between order and chaos. And it sounds to me like for this film, you found that problematic. I think for, I'll talk about this movie later, but I think for a lot of his films, it's kind of an interesting dichotomy. Oppenheimer, I thought, had that problem. Oppenheimer, I thought, was a movie about science and precision, and it was pretty messy, and it was really all over the place, and it didn't always work.
Agree. Yeah.
As much as I enjoyed it, I mean, I thought it was.
That's it.
Yeah.
They're in some ways, he's a very old-fashioned filmmaker.
Very.
Like he's very rip-roaring, like Adventure Time at the movies, right? Just very scaled up and very sophisticated versions of what I would consider to be almost genre films from the 50s. You know?
Before this Odyssey, it was like Ray Harryhausen, right? Stuff
Yeah,
like that.
yeah. So
the Dark Knight trilogy or comic books.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And I think he's like a comic book without. He's
like a great comic book.
He's a great comic book. He's like a graphic novelist. Yeah,
exactly.
But he's also, I would say, this is another issue I have with it. So we're going to get into the whole movie and the whole, the lore behind it and why we think, this was his follow up to his huge success with Oppenheimer. Why is he making the Odyssey right now, right? Getting into all that stuff. But I would just say on a general basis, Nolan is one of those filmmakers that I admire, but I don't like him.
Right.
There's never been a movie of his that I felt connected to on a deep level, right? Doesn't mean I don't enjoy watching them. They're obviously extremely intelligent.
All of his films are interesting to some degree.
Yeah, they're
even when they don't work.
Yeah,
except Tenet, which is garbage.
I've never seen Tenet, so I've heard various things. Some people love it.
Talk about mess.
Yeah. Well, So that's my thing about Nolan. I don't think that I don't think he's too. And I don't mean this in the wrong way. This isn't me saying like woke, toxic masculinity. No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying I would say he's almost a little bit like a kind of very, very, savantish type of autistic or something. In the fact that he's obsessed with the structure of movies. Like think of something like Dunkirk and the way he uses time and structure of time and space, very scientific, very Einstein, right?
Yeah. And
to try to kind of build an edifice for the story. But what suffers is the story, I think. I think it's always, and this is even more ironic considering this is the original story, right? The Odyssey.
Yeah.
And I don't think he's good at getting down from the edifice of the structure of what he's doing, because it's complicated, into the parallel, which should be there, of the characters and the actors and the dynamics between them and the subtleties, right? That would kind of create a nuanced thing. That has nothing to do with the performances. Those performances were very strong, I thought, pretty much across the board. But it's more about the approach and the writing.
Yeah. The one relationship in the Odyssey that I found very moving, and which to me was the heart of the film, the emotional core, was between Penelope, played by Anne Hathaway, and Telemachus, played by by Spider-Man, Tom Holland. Yeah. And their scenes together to me had a chemistry. They felt to me like mother and son. They felt like much more than any other relationship in the film. And I think that's where Nolan often goes wrong, is exactly what you're talking about in other films.
Right.
In this one, it's kind of not noticeable because there's so much going on. But, even something like Oppenheimer, You never get a sense of any community between Oppenheimer and any other character. They don't relate. They're like they're talking in different rooms.
Yeah, and it is. It's like, that's also very maybe graphic novel about, who knows. He's much more of a kind of like image, that's very arresting and kind of has a lot of stuff. But when he tries to do like people talking to each other, it's like, huh?
Imagine if you did a Cassavetes script,
Yeah, exactly. He's the anti-Cassavetes. But yeah, having said that, this movie, I went to go see it with Ishmael and Tina. So, we had an afternoon off, all three of us. We went to see the early show in IMAX here in Toronto at the Scotiabank. And it was the first time in, I would have to say, like 20 years that I've been to an 11:30 a.m. showing, and it was packed.
Wow.
Packed. You know what I mean?
All the IMAXs were sold out. I saw it in AVX.
Yeah.
At 10:15 in the morning yesterday.
Yeah.
It wasn't packed. It was like half full.
Half full, but 10:15 a.m. Yeah. I mean, I saw it like last week. I think maybe things have slowed down a little bit, but
yeah, Spider-Man would have taken up.
Yeah, but it was just shocking, that for a 3-hour film on the Odyssey, right? And so yeah, overall, again, I liked it. I did nod off a little bit at certain points. Not nod off like actually fall asleep, but I did kind of like lose focus.
Okay.
And I think it was because, again, so it's a very complicated story, the Odyssey, right? It's like basically about the king, Odysseus from Ithaca, has been now at war for 20 years, right? That's where the movie opens, right? And Telemachus, his 20-year-old son, who doesn't really know his father now, he left when he was an infant, and his wife Penelope are holding the fort down as much as they can in Ithaca. But all these, because of there's no king, all these suitors have appeared and have taken up in the court, like all these other guys who want to take over and marry Penelope. And she says, I'll decide when I finish my tapestry. She weaves this tapestry every night, but then she undoes it, or she weaves it during the day and undoes it during the night so she can, whatever. Telemachus, his son, decides, because he's kind of like this, being bullied and kind of like this.
These suitors aren't nice.
He's like a mama's boy, essentially, because he's got no dad, right? And, he decides, I'm going to go and find out about where my father is, right? So this is a general story, okay? Meanwhile, Odysseus himself has been on this island for a number of years. 7 years or something? With Calypso, who's played by...
Charlize Theron.
Yes. And so you have this kind of narration of two timelines going on. This is very typical Nolan, right? You have at the very, very beginning, you have this like rapper, I can't remember his name.
Travis Scott.
There you go. You have Travis Scott, playing this bard, standing in a bar in an inn, and he's got this, this giant stick, and he's tapping it and making a rhythm, and he's telling the story of Odysseus.
That's
right?
like the framing device in a sense.
So that's the first framing device.
Yeah.
Then you have Odysseus himself, Matt Damon, who's with Calypso on an island there, and he starts telling the story of what his adventures were, right? So you have two narrations going on. You have the larger myth of this man, and what's really interesting is what's said about him right away is he's a man of many turns or something, which Odysseus is supposed to be like a trickster figure, like a kind of wily, wise kind of guy.
I haven't read the book, but I listened to a couple of podcast episodes about the book, so I got up my Cole's notes, and it seemed like he was much more of a trickster figure in the book than he was in the film. He didn't seem that trickstery to me.
Yeah, I think
a little bit.
I think this is one thing where I think Nolan takes different interpretations, right? And like, for example, he's not the same. He's very much like he is kind of like let's talk a little bit about Matt Damon, because his version of Odysseus is not heroic, right? In the same way that you would expect, I guess. You have this kind of this leader, but this leader who seems very doubtful of things and very insecure at times.
And he makes a lot of mistakes.
Makes lots of mistakes. He sacrifices a lot of people. The whole thing about the Trojan horse, beautifully done in the movie, by the way. I really loved that. That was my favorite part of the movie, right? Yeah. But the way he shows it, it's like he shows the men like realistically waiting in there, shitting in there, pissing in there, and they have to like stay in there. And it takes away the glory of war, right? He literally has them rolling around in piss and shit, right? And that's the reality. It's a dirty, and
they're trapped on that beach for like.
They're trapped for a long time until they get them in, right? Yeah. And then on top of that, it's like, there's this whole thing about in the ancient Greek law of Zeus, right? And they talk about this constantly throughout the movie, this idea of xenia, right? Which is this idea that you must treat the stranger with hospitality and respect, right? That if you don't, you are essentially going against Zeus's law, and yet you see Odysseus, in his bloodthirsty travels throughout, whatever, never does this. Right?
Well, I think that's the underlying theme of the film is that they break Zeus's law. They're constantly, treating strangers with contempt. They're constantly raping and pillaging both sides, everybody. Yeah. That's the way it was back then. There were no good guys, and they pay for their sins. Right. Karma's a bitch, and the gods attack them and try to kill them. Yeah.
Well, there's that, and then there's the whole forgetting, about his home. Like he's fighting for his home, but he doesn't go home. He can't find his way back home. Right.
No. To me, that all felt a little like sort of a representation of PTSD in a way.
It is like
after the battles and everything's done.
Yeah.
I mean, I would only hope that were I suffering from PTSD, I would be able to do so in the arms of Charlize Theron. Probably unlikely, but that certainly helps.
Right.
Realizing slowly after she kind of gives up on trying to keep him there.
Yeah, with your luck, you'd probably be more with John Leguizamo.
I'll take what I can get.
Wow. Okay.
He was great. He was great,
yeah. I mean, again, I think all the performances were good. I mean, except Benny Safdie, who never took off his helmet.
There wasn't any performance to give.
Yeah, it was nothing. It was like... Yeah. But I mean, I think... So, yeah, it's an interesting portrayal. And this gets to why I think Nolan made the movie now, right? Why would you do the Odyssey now? Now, the Odyssey has been redone a few times. It's been done as like one of those like Corda style movies from the 50s.
So like a Kirk Douglas?
Yeah, Kirk Douglas I think did it, and it's also famously, it was redone by James Joyce, right? Yeah. In novel form. So Ulysses, James Joyce's masterpiece, is considered by many to be kind of the end of literature, because it's come full circle. It's a retelling of the Odyssey through these, modern means, right? And so the Odyssey is a loaded source, right? It contains a lot of stuff that he can critique about politics, about philosophy, about how we live, our values, all that stuff, because it's fundamental. Fathers and sons. I'll get to my psychoanalytic read afterwards. But yeah, just what do you think of that? Like, what do you think about why Nolan? Do you think that he had a political agenda?
I think his films are not overtly political in that sense. Typically, even the ones that like Oppenheimer that are more, about politics, in a way. I think Nolan is often drawn to these sort of masculine, lone male figures going on a journey and finding something that changes them. We saw that, going way back to Memento, going back to Inception, Interstellar is 100% that.
Yeah.
And especially Oppenheimer. And I think Oppenheimer and the Odyssey are similar in the sense that not only do you have one figure who's been going through all of these trials, you know, but both films are based around wartime atrocities. So Oppenheimer creates this horrific weapon that's used to murder millions of innocent people, and Matt Damon has gone through the Trojan Wars, murdering thousands of innocent people. So and they both feel guilt. So Oppenheimer's the whole last third of the film. Oppenheimer, he's racked with guilt about what he's done, and much of the narrative around the Odyssey is Matt Damon feeling horrible about the crimes he's committed. I liked the movie a lot more than you did. I thought it was great.
Okay.
I had issues with it, as I do, and I'm very hit and miss on Christopher Nolan, very much so. This was one of his better films, I thought. I liked the way that he played with time and structure, in a way like Dunkirk in that sense, where things were happening at different. It was never confusing. I thought the spectacle of it was extraordinary. I mean, I just fell right into like all of these great epic scenes, the Cyclops and those giant figures on the island, and also that great scene with Samantha Morton, who maybe gave the best performance.
Yeah,
in the film.
where she turns them into pigs.
That was like horrifying.
Yeah, it was. It was scary.
Also scary was that great scene when he calls upon the figures from Hades to come up, and all of the fallen warriors that died because of Odysseus confront him. Including Elliot Page, who also is very good. So, I think one of the biggest problems I have with Nolan, and it was less apparent here, but it was there, was the poor way he always writes female characters. He's never good at it, and was extremely true in Oppenheimer, where you had major female characters who were important, and they were just given nothing to do.
Right.
And in this film, I thought, because it is such a male milieu, you didn't have a lot of female characters to worry too much about, except Anne Hathaway, who I thought gave such a great performance that you really felt for her,
right?
Believed her. So, and for me, I thought.
So you think it's one of the best?
I think it's one of his best movies. Basically, to say that I had fewer problems with it than I have with most of his films.
Right.
And and I think, to your point about its politics, it may not be an overtly political film, but certainly. We live in a world where for years there have been atrocities committed on by so many sides. Yeah. And what's great about the Odyssey is that it doesn't hold back on saying that this is what we're all doing. Yeah. There's no good guys or bad guys. There's no, except Robert Pattinson. That was another problem with this film. That was the one performance that got on my nerves, was Robert Pattinson. Oh, the suitor? He was almost like... It went almost into camp. I was waiting for the twirling mustache. But
there's I think there's a little bit of that for sure. I don't agree with I don't feel that Anne Hathaway's performance didn't blow me away. Right. I thought she was good, like fine, but again, I agree with your other point though. Nolan in Penelope has the perfect character. A woman who sits there and is waiting, right? Well, waiting for the man to return.
Neither this nor Oppenheimer exactly passed the Bechdel test. I mean, in both films, all women care about are the men around them. Yeah. And something like Dunkirk, there are no women characters. Yeah. So that's
this is what I was getting at before. The sort of like the sort of the savantish kind of male brain character, right? Of Nolan, I'm talking about. And I think there's something also, but I like Nolan as a person. Like I've heard him talk, and he seems like a very humane, lovely person, right? And I think this is what I think he's trying to do with doing this with the Odyssey. I noticed with women, his attempt is feminist, but I don't think he does it very well. No. So he's trying to do something like, for example, if you look at the Helen of Troy character, the Lupita character, right? Like, you don't get this Helen of Troy treasured, like beautiful, woman who wars were fought over, apparently, right? Or fictional wars or whatever. Yeah. You get a disfigured beauty. Mm-hmm. Now, that's a very interesting symbolic thing that he does, right? Because what he's not allowing you, the viewer, to partake in is fetishization of the most beautiful woman in the world, who apparently started these wars.
Yeah,
right.
I mean, he could also have cast somebody other than Lupita Nyong'o, who is pretty much the most beautiful woman in the world.
She's very beautiful, but he scars up her face.
Yeah.
Now, to me, that's very significant, right? And also, it also shows dominion, right, mm-hmm. of patriarchy, because it shows that this woman is not a person, is a possession, and I can disfigure it if I want to, right?
Yeah, and I think Matt Damon says something earlier about how ridiculous it was that they fought this incredible war for
But that's the whole thing. That's all thrown. It's all thrown into mm-hmm. Skepticism, because it's like, well, clearly it wasn't about venerating this woman if you're gonna just like disfigure her, right?
Yeah.
And that's the thing. It's like women. That's why with the Samantha Morton part, right? You have this character who is the one true feminist character in the film,
exactly,
right? Because she acts right away, right? Like somebody who's been essayed before, right?
Yeah.
Like who's had. Because as soon as she sees, she screams and runs out, right?
Yeah.
And then she turns them into what they are, pigs, right? These voracious appetites, you mm-hmm. know, and she reveals who they are, right? And that's the moment of truth, where you see who these people really are. And it ties very much into the other thing. So the women are within a structure of patriarchy. Now the question becomes, is Nolan challenging patriarchy or upkeeping patriarchy?
I don't think he's challenging it. Right? I don't think he's challenging it. I don't think he's doing either. I think that's what the material is. I think he's kind of just going through it.
Well,
none of his other films explore that in a way, but I think his other films tend to be, again, they don't give the female characters much to do, and
I think that's significant, right?
I don't think he's I'm sure in real life he's not an oppressive patriarch, but he's certainly, I don't think he's a feminist either. Well, or if he is, it's not, I don't see it in his films.
I mean, I think, when you look at the film and you look at what he's trying to do, again, when you're looking at very, very like well-known material, right? So when you look at it and you see where he's making changes, for example, the ending, right? Sorry, spoiler alert. But at the ending, in the original book, Odysseus comes back, comes back in disguise, and, everyone thinks he's just a bum and a beggar. And then he, kills all the suitors, and in this very violent, kind of like banquet, and then retakes his place as king of Ithaca and as the father in the house. Okay, that's how the book ends. That's not how the movie ends. And that's a very significant change, because what happens in the end is Odysseus and Penelope go into self-imposed exile.
Yeah.
And they allow Telemachus now to reign, which is a big, you can't help but think about Trump and like not seceding power, right? The idea of the tyrant is the person who will not give up power mm-hmm. and will not let the new come in.
So right? I didn't realize that's how the book ended.
Yeah.
So I didn't realize that
it's the restoration
he had
of
made that change.
Yeah. So there's this kind of concept within the whole of Western, dialogue, but the idea of the restoration of the heterosexual partnership, right? Mm-hmm. You have to restore all stories, or significant amount of just normie stories are basically about resurrecting the heterosexual couple and their family and the nuclear family. This is like a political point, right? It's not the way it's supposed to be. It's a structure, right? And that structure is patriarchy, which has to do with name, lineage, conquests, all the stuff that men, place their legacy on.
So are you saying that Nolan's version is more progressive?
I think he's trying to be more. Yes, I think he is. That's why I think he's making this movie right now.
Well, no wonder Elon Musk hates it.
Yeah. Well, yeah. That, and also because he's a fucking racist. But anyway, no, I think that's exactly it. I think even though I didn't love the movie, right, that has more to do with, I think, maybe personal stuff. I don't know.
Well, it's just if it grabs you or not.
But I do think there's politically interesting things he's doing. And my opinion is that he's making this movie directly as a way to confront the Trump regime and what's happening worldwide with right-wing movements, because the whole point of the movie is, like, if you remember, they talk about in Ithaca, right? They talk about people from the sea.
Yes.
And these are foreigners coming to invade, right, them. But you never see them.
No.
They're fake. They're kind of like this thing. And at the end, he even says, I am the person from the sea.
Right.
Right. So the very thing that the chimera that they're making up, this kind of fantasy of of being invaded by these foreigners, he himself in the Trojan Horse was the foreigner who invaded, right?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know that about the original book that you just mentioned, Marley. Right. The ending was changed. So, I had always felt that Nolan's film, while not being directly overtly political, certainly was about the idea of, the genocidal behavior of these warring factions and the atrocities that all sides commit throughout war always.
Right.
And so there's that political subtext to it.
Yeah.
But that's really interesting, that what you're saying. And I hadn't thought about the people from the sea bit, really.
Because when he says that to Penelope at the end, it's like, shit.
That's like the other enemy that doesn't exist.
Exactly. And that's a very
it's a very extreme right.
You do. You have a king who comes back into his own home, very much changed, but changed in a very spiritual way that we would understand today to be kind of post Bible. You know what I mean? Like post Christianity. Because it's really interesting, like the other change, I read this somewhere, I can't remember where, but the other change that Nolan makes is he changes the law of Zeus to the law of Jesus, right? He said, because apparently the law of Zeus, I read this in some academic who studied Homer, right? In the original Homer, Zeus's law is not about treat others as you would like to be treated yourself. Zeus's law is always treat the other with hospitality. Okay?
Yeah, that's what's in the film.
Yeah, he says treat the other. They literally say you must treat the other as you yourself
yes,
would
they
wish
do,
to.
but they also say you must treat the stranger as if he were part of your family.
Right.
Because you never know if that stranger might be a god in disguise.
That's right. Yeah, and that's the whole thing.
So that really might be more about...
It has that, but it does have that concept of the universal values that glue everybody together, right? That if the golden rule is the golden rule, and he takes it even further back and says that this was what I guess Homer was trying to get at even then, right? Yeah. So yeah,
and it's a golden rule that, again, as we've said earlier, Odysseus and his army break that rule over and over again. Yeah. And then we're supposed to feel like, like Cyclops, right? They walk into Cyclops' cave and they start like messing around. They're going to steal his cheese. Well, of course he's going to get upset. Of course he's going to kill him.
I felt bad for the Cyclops.
I felt bad for the Cyclops. Yeah. Plus he's already, son of Poseidon, and my dad's god of the seas.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
What do I get? I live in a cave with some sheep. That's not fair.
No,
it's not fair at all.
No. And, he was a good-looking dude, except for the one eye. Yeah. Like slender, nice build.
Presence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was a little turned on.
I think it was the sheep.
Wow. All right. Well, anyway, is there? I mean, there's another way to also talk about how I saw the. I do think there was progressive things. I do think Nolan is progressive. I personally probably think he's progressive, in terms of his politics. Maybe not.
Oh, probably.
Maybe not like AOC or Mamdani style. I'm just saying, like,
there's not a lot of like extreme right filmmakers out there making.
No, there's not. No,
so,
and so I think he's a humanist, and he's in a particular area, and I think that's great. I just don't think that he's quite blended. He's not a.
Well, his films aren't that progressive.
Well, I'll put it this way. Look, when it comes to something like Inception or what's the other one? Interstellar or Memento, Prestige, I really love.
Yeah, that's a good one.
All those earlier ones, though, the ones where essentially the concept is the star, right? You're not going necessarily because of the stars in it, right? I mean, it wouldn't matter to me whether Interstellar had, whoever, right? Matthew McConaughey, or Inception had Leo, right? It's more, the concept is the star in Nolan, right? And you're going to be kind of challenged like a chess game or kind of like sci-fi thing, or to think about something and be thrown into it.
Yeah.
When he doesn't do that as much and he tries to bring it down to a more human level, I think he falters. And it's because of the things we've already said. I don't think he's good at writing women. I don't think he's good at writing. A lot of the dialogue in the movie was bad. I didn't like it. Right?
I thought a lot of the dialogue, it felt both like old-fashioned and also kind of contemporary, which I didn't mind that much.
Oh, except when he says dad.
That didn't bother me.
Oh, that bothered me.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's like, who calls you? You could have just said father. That's also modern. Like, you could still say my father. Yeah.
Spider-Man, what do you want?
Yeah, but you don't want to, you don't want to do that thing where it becomes kind of like ridiculous, right? And there were a few moments of that, and also there was a lot of like strange, because Nolan is not primarily a dialogue heavy kind of guy. He's very visual, right? Like a lot of his movies, there are huge sequences with no dialogue, right? And his problem is, getting into the quantum level of it.
That's another problem I have with most Nolan films, is that not only just the image but the sound. Like, the lights came up at the end of the movie and I looked at my Apple Watch and it had a warning that I was in an area of too high decibels.
Yes. Yeah. And you're like at a Who concert in the 70s.
Exactly. Yeah. And but not just that, it's just that the audio, I find the sound, what he does with sound, although it's technically dazzling and incredible the way he layers different.
It's a bit irritating.
It's a little irritating.
Yeah.
It's too much. And visually he can be that way too.
Yeah.
So in Oppenheimer, again, a film I admire but have a lot of problems with, you're constantly cutting to like stars going in and out and visually sparks and all this stuff and weird sounds on the sound, like, that are supposed to convey some kind of metaphysical, scientific God knows what.
Right.
And it just got annoying.
Yeah.
So there were moments in this film that were annoying to me in terms of just the audio tapestry that was just enveloping.
Yeah, I think, ultimately, in the end, it's like a movie that the ambitions were very good. I think the intentions were good. I think the acting, like, I really liked Matt Damon. I thought he was really strong.
He's great, and he was very subtle in what
he was
very
subtle, and he was both believable as a leader, but also believable as somebody who was a kind of like frail leader, right? And and like you said, like all the segments with the curses and the fates, right?
Yeah.
Those are all really handled well. Yeah, there was never a moment where I was like, CGI looks like shit, So,
there's no CGI. The only CGI
the ocean stuff was great.
The ocean stuff was great. The only CGI was apparently the Scylla creatures that come out from the rocks.
Right. Yeah.
That was digital.
Yeah.
But like apparently with the whirlpool, which is amazing.
Yeah.
Like he shot it with a bunch of people on jet skis going around.
Wow. And then just took them out?
And then so the digital stuff is removing things, right?
Right.
Like in Mad Max, they remove all the
cables. No, that's cool.
And that's cool. Yeah. That's great.
So, it looked beautiful. I mean, the film, just from a visual perspective, is absolutely beautiful.
I mean, you got to see it on a big screen.
You have to. It's a gorgeous film. It is.
Yeah.
And like,
unlike you, though, I did not find it too long. I was never bored. I never thought about like nodding off. I was like focused and engaged beginning to end.
Yeah, some people I think really snap into it, maybe onto the rhythms of his style or whatever. Yeah. I just found there were times when dialogue. I'm trying to remember exact spots, but there were a couple of spots where I was like, okay, we don't need to know this. You don't have to say this. We already know that, So it was a little bit like there was a bit of attempt to put dialogue in that was sort of and who are you and where are you going? Oh, I'm it's like exposition or something, right? Yeah. So I think I did nod off, not nod off, but just kind of lost interest a couple of times.
Well, the final scene with Matt Damon killing everybody, that went on a little long, I would say.
Yeah, it wasn't my favorite either.
And again, Pattinson was just get this guy out of here.
Yeah.
Although I like him as an actor. I liked him in lots of stuff. But in this one, he just sort of...
Yeah, I agree.
Didn't work.
Yeah. And the only other thing I would say is an alternative way of reading it, which I think is extremely legitimate considering it's ancient Greece, is through a psychoanalytic lens, which is that, essentially you've got this, what's known as the Oedipal triangle, right? You have mother, father, and son. And in that Oedipal triangle, in a classical Freudian sense, what you have is the father is the phallus, right? Is the kind of the bringer of the law, right? And, blah, 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 blah. The son wants to possess the mother and kill the father, right? Yeah. And take over, right? So this is kind of like an inverse version of that tale. But it still contains the same thing. And in many ways, you can kind of see this this is where I think Nolan doesn't understand in a certain sense that what he's putting forward is both a progressive view and the usual thing, like the status quo. It's almost like putting the critique in an acceptable way. But it still maintains the status quo, because essentially you have the story of the Penelope who cannot become the phallic, right?
She cannot be
the leader, no. Right? And that in itself says the order is, everything is on hold until the father comes back. Mm-hmm. Telemachus can't do anything because he doesn't have the permission.
He can't replace the dad yet.
You can't. Yeah, there's a whole structure to this, right? And
he can't have the throne while mom's sitting around with the queen.
He's in the maternal.
Yeah.
So in order to be excavated from the maternal, you have to fear castration, right? That's the whole Oedipus complex, right? The boy fears castration, and because of that fear, identifies with the father. I'm not saying I believe this. I'm just saying it's an explanation.
Well,
right?
I think he does. I mean, in the film, he's constantly under threat.
He's castrated. He's like
the suitors are always. It's not like they're beating him up.
No,
but they're humiliating.
They're calling him a girl, basically.
They're
right?
humiliating him. Yeah. They're bullying him.
Yeah, and so this whole Odyssey, the whole edifice of the whole thing could be very much just the kind of story about how patriarchy maintains itself and the hierarchical structure that's necessary to maintain the structure. And where I find, even though it's progressive for him to, have the, Odysseus, give up power at the end and give it to Telemachus, it's not progressive to the point where he gives up over the power to Penelope. Right?
No, it's
that Penelope could do something different.
Maybe in a way Nolan wants his cake and eat it too. I'm going to be a little progressive.
I think he's just a little unconscious of that element of the Oedipal side of it, like that. In a sense, when you resurrect something, I think he does. It's half and half.
I mean, it works. Yeah. It works in the film. It makes sense. It's.
Yeah, I just don't.
I like it better than had Matt Damon just said, "Well, fuck y'all, I'm gonna just stay on my throne and keep going,"
which is how the real book ends.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
So I kind of liked that he goes away, which makes sense since he murders a bunch of people.
Yeah.
And it makes sense for now. The people who were castrating his son are gone, and so Telemachus can be the king.
He can rise, right?
Right.
Yeah. And what kind of leader will he be, right? So but that's it. It's like the leader must be another phallocentric kind of figure.
But it is
right?
ancient Greece. What else is it going to be?
Well, I'm just saying he's not making a movie in ancient Greece now, right? No. So he may. I just think that where I think I'm clarifying it as I'm saying it, which is that I think that Nolan. My problem with him is that he's not really progressive.
Yeah.
He puts progressive things in there because he's like a regular guy of the modern time, but his views are very status quo in the end.
I agree.
That's where I would say I have the biggest political issue with the film, but other than that, I mean, yeah, fine. I mean, it was I just don't think, I also don't find, I find it interesting that people really gravitate towards Nolan. I'm not sure exactly what the big call there is.
Well, I think you mentioned it earlier. He makes grand cinematic statements, but they are rooted in kind of spectacle, action. There's a lot of things that are visual.
Right.
That's what keeps them living in theaters, and he's very much about the theatrical experience.
Do you think that
and he's got big stars? So
yeah,
for example, you don't care that Leonardo DiCaprio was in Inception. It could have been anybody, but a lot of people cared. That's why part of the reason it was such a huge hit is because you had the #1 movie actor in the world as the lead role.
For sure, I'm not suggesting that that's not big for business. I'm just saying like Memento had. What's his name in it? He wasn't a big star.
Well,
right?
Memento was his breakout.
Yeah, but it was a huge hit.
It was.
And it was the concept that made it a hit.
Yeah.
Right? And it became a meme and all that stuff, right? And so my point is, what I was going to ask you is, don't you think that part of the reason people get so excited by Nolan is because it can make you feel very smart?
Yes.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right.
If I like this Nolan film, I must be
scientifically above.
He's clearly a mega intelligent guy. His films are extremely intelligent to a fault, for sure, to a fault. I think.
Yeah, he's dealing with physics and all kinds of, and him and his brother apparently are both gifted.
Wow, if I loved Oppenheimer, I must be a smarty pants. That's certainly a very possible.
It boosts your own. But yet it's easy enough.
Yeah,
for
it's
the
layman's
average
terms,
for the
right?
average person to kind of get into it.
The layman can watch it and get it.
Right.
You don't have to know everything about nuclear physics.
No. Whereas something like Dune, which is interestingly a similar theme.
Villeneuve is a little like that too.
He
Just
is
a little bit.
But I don't think people feel the same.
He's more human.
I think he's more difficult as a filmmaker. Like Dune is not as easy to kind of sort of swallow. It's like a harder movie, I think.
Also a massive box office hit. So certainly there's audiences out there who want to see ambitious, big screen, old-fashioned movie making, smart, going back to like Kubrick or even a Hitchcock in a way.
Yeah, there's kind of you could flavor now a lot of these bigger, larger, huge blockbusters with sort of art film concepts and sci-fi that doesn't have to be silly, right? Like it's actually very thought-provoking stuff. But again, it's like just from people like you and me, when you're watching like Chantal Akerman or something, right? You see the comparison. This is an acceptable amount of pushback within a kind of dominant ideology, right? Mm-hmm. And that's where I don't think there's radicality in Nolan.
No.
Right? But,
No, he's not a radical filmmaker.
Am I always going to go see one of his movies when it comes out?
Yeah,
yes.
Of course. Right? It's you have to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, certainly a filmmaker like Ackerman is or any number of more independent art house filmmaker
films,
can be much more compelling films, much more psychologically interesting, more conceptual, more scientific. But when somehow people like Nolan and Villeneuve have been able to take those ideas, keep them fresh, keep them alive, and be able to attach massive budgets with big Hollywood stars that help make the pill easier to swallow for the general public, and the general public goes to see these films and says, "Wow, I get it.
But I guess
smart.
yeah,
which is good. It's good. It's better than that than watching I don't know, Dude, Where's My Car or something. But, yeah.
What? Dude, Where's My Car is brilliant. Anyway, Yeah. All right. Well, no, I was going to say, like, the other thing it makes me think of is, okay, if you're, you know, like, how come, like, or my point would be, like, you watch these Nolan movies, which are kind of mainstream experimental films most of the time, like,
Yeah.
But you won't watch the original, kind of like more the real sort. Like, these are kind of like pastiche, almost experimental films, and there's a lot of that going on these days, right?
Right.
Because what's happening is there's been which is a good thing, like you said, it's a good thing, but good and also dangerous, because it's like, you're taking it's all collage, right? You're taking stuff from like Chantal Ackerman, or I don't know,
French New Wave,
Bellatar. Somebody who nobody, except people like us know, and it's like you're taking these things from that, and then you're putting them into these larger frameworks, and what it does is it distorts the original sort of like meaning of that style sometimes.
Well,
right?
A couple episodes ago, you and I talked about Backrooms and Obsession, and Backrooms I thought was a good example of that.
Yes,
a movie that clearly has some experimental film background.
Yeah.
Alternative media, digital media. Obsession very much similar, although Obsession is not trying to be as formally inventive as Backrooms.
Right.
Didn't need to be.
Right.
But doesn't work. I don't think either of us thought that strongly about Backrooms.
No.
Which tries to be kind of Kubrick, tries to be kind of Blair Witch, tries to be kind of conceptual, never quite gets there.
Yeah, it's a little too heavy on its art film feelings.
Yeah, so I think audiences in a lot of ways would be again, like you're saying with Nolan and Villeneuve, you could watch Backrooms. You could be some like hipster 22-year-old.
Right.
Watch Backrooms and go, oh my god, I get it. Holy shit, I got
then,
my finger on the pulse.
Right, but then watch that's
A24's business model.
And then you watch
there.
Bergman's Persona, and you're like, this is boring, man. Anyway.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that's basically our take on it. Right?
I mean, it's worth seeing.
Yeah,
on biggest screen possible.
I'm interested to know what people who listen to this show might think, because I know that we have a really highbrow audience.
We do.
And also what you thought of our Jonathan Demme episode. I really enjoyed doing that Jonathan Demme.
Yeah, we got great feedback.
And I think what we want to do next is, I really enjoy doing these kind of deep dives into certain directors' work. So I think we were talking about Stephen Frears, right?
That would be great. I've seen a few Stephen Frears films. I don't know a lot about him. I could probably count the number of Frears films I've seen on like 3 fingers.
Oh, Stephen Frears is amazing.
So I need to get into that for
well,
sure.
I mean, let's talk about it. If not, we'll come up with something. I don't know.
I'd also love to do a documentary episode.
Yes, we want to do a thing on a documentary, which is a great idea. Yeah. But that also it's a lot of watching, right?
It's a lot of watching. Yeah. I was thinking if we could get Omar in, who's a documentary filmmaker and is AZ's brother.
Yes, he is.
Maybe we can pick like 1 or 2 key docs in history to sort of...
Okay, well, let me pass it by the boss, HOMER.
Yeah.
And, I'd love to have my brother on, and we can talk about, his last documentary, which was quite good, too, which is Disco's Revenge, which I think is still available on Prime or something.
It's on Crave.
It's on Crave, right.
It's on Crave.
Yeah, and then we can talk about some of our favorite documentaries from the past. That would be great. So those are upcoming.
And if anyone else has any ideas on episodes...
Keep them to yourself. No, just kidding. We love.
We can't think of anything. We need your help.
Yeah,
we're fucked.
We're
dumb. We're not bright.
No, it's not even that. It's just like we're very close to dementia, right? Like we're
pretty old.
It's coming. A couple of years, maybe.
If that.
Yeah, if that. Yeah. I think you already have it, Tom.
Who are you?
What?
And with that, I'll see you out there in the dark.
Did you poo your pants?
Almost.
Oh. Just like, are you following Trump's footsteps?
Goodbye.
Trump poos his pants.